are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugard. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. College football's Peek Around the Corner. We cannot tell you how excited we are. The football season is right around the corner here at Peek Around the Corner, and we are all fired up. I do apologize for the voice. I am battling whatever I've got. I don't know what I've got, but I'm getting better. I think. No, I am. Each and every day I'm getting a little bit better. The good news is once again, I cannot sing. I cannot sing for you all, but I'm sure that's more of a case of celebration for you all instead of disappointment. I want to thank you all for coming on in. I do appreciate it. We did not advertise this show. I told the little general, I said, we're just going to take it day by day. Until Saturday, we're going to be doing a watch party. Florida State versus Georgia Tech, Dublin, Ireland. So join us Saturday morning, Saturday at noon, depending on where you are in the country, and where we're going to watch the game together. Put down your comments in real time. We'll have the Peek Around the Corner scoreboard behind us, and we're going to have a lot of fun watching the Seminoles versus the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech. Big Ears was in the house. Coy is here. Stephen McNeely has made it once again. Happy Tuesday. 4 more days. Holy smokes. AMAC is in the house. Randy Taylor, Ted Watts, Humble, Bumble, Duck, John Menser, Florida Man, Gold Seminoles, Chad Bracey, Son of Sarek, Matt Higgins, Jeff Morgan, Dark Moon, Big Lubbock is here. Jay Chapman, CFB Plus, Ted Watts, Jeff Westfall, Big Time Tuesday, Cameron B., Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Richard Brookins is in the house. Joe Z, Mr. Spartan, Anthony Carlson has made it in. Joaquin Morales is here. Jeff Kais is here. D5 Terps, and Patrick, the Baylor Bear, and we do have some Baylor Bears news this morning. Not a surprise. Just wondering when we were going to get this. It's official. Daquan Finn wins the Baylor starting quarterback job. The 3-year starter at Toledo. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. He was a good starting quarterback last year. And when he went into the portal, and Dave Aranda, the Baylor Bears were able to snap him up. I'm pretty excited to see how Mr. Finn does with Baylor. I saw him more than a handful of times when he was performing at a very high level in MAC football, Toledo. So that's exciting. I think that's exciting for Baylor. We also have other quarterback news we'll get to in a second. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate it. Greg, your next CVS run is for medication. I have been taking over-the-counter medication. I definitely am on the rebound. I still sound horrible, and I'm probably going to sound horrible for a while. But there is no question about it. I am much better today than I was yesterday. I have been improving for about 5 straight days. But man, I've had this for a very long time. So we're going to do a live show earlier than expected today. We're going to get through it. We got a lot to talk about. And then I'm going to rest up and we're going to take it day by day. We've already, look, I don't know. There's not much more we can do at Peek Around the Corner. Not much we can do at Peek Around the Corner. We have broken down all the conferences. I don't know how much more we can break it down. We're going to do a little bit more today. I love this article that CBS Sports put out on every SEC fan base. What do they go to bed worrying about? I love those type of articles, especially right before the season starts. We're going to go through that. We're going to have some fun talking about what SEC fans, what are they worrying about as they go to bed tonight, as they're real close to the season starting. What is Auburn? What is Mr. Walter, the Auburn fan, part of the PATC community? What is he worrying about? When he puts his head on the pillow, what are the Auburn Tigers fans worrying about? What is the Arkansas Razorback, Jamie Thornton, what is she worrying about? So we're going to go through an article today. So that's going to be pretty fun. But anyway, so I'm going to, I'm taking it easy. I'm getting better. I am getting better. I think that's the key part. So again, I gotta take care of this singing voice of mine, right, guys? Right, gals? Right? Or some of you probably think it can't get any worse, so go ahead, Greg, and do whatever you have to do. So I will take care of it. Thank you, Ricky, so much for your super chat and for your incredible generosity throughout the whole off season. Thank you, Mr. Tungate. I do appreciate your kindness. Thank you so very much. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I do know that before the little general and I went to Hawaii, 2 weeks before we went to Hawaii, we had another COVID, I don't know what you call it now, booster shot, whatever. So if it is COVID, hopefully that booster shot has helped my percentages out a little bit. I have never had any problems breathing. So, until your oxygen level, until you can't breathe, you're fighting the symptoms of a virus. It could be COVID, could be whatever. We were in the ocean almost every day. We were in the pool almost every day. Then you go on a long flight. Who knows? Who knows what I got? But I am getting better. No question about it. If going to Hawaii makes you feel like this, I'm canceling my trip to Hawaii. Now, Hawaii was fantastic. We went to Waikiki Beach. We had a great time. This old fat guy spent a lot of time in the ocean. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of water displacement happened in the ocean. So if people talk about the ocean levels are a little bit lower than before, it's the fat guy from Minnesota. It is my culpa. It is my fault. So just to let everybody know, it isn't because the waters are, dissipating. It's because of huge water displacement every time I went into the ocean. MBM, get the sickness out now before the season starts. Could work out. That could work out for me. Could work out. Okay, let's get to it. The title of the show is Dennis Dodd. Dennis Dodd's bold prediction. He just put it out there. CBS Sports. Dennis Dodd's bold prediction, ESPN will not extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. We are going to get to that at the back end of our monologue, and then we're going to open up for phone calls, talk about anything you want in college football. Of course, when you call in, the show is yours to go where you want to take it. I find this interesting on a couple of different levels. Dennis Dodd is saying this. It's a bold prediction. So what you mean by bold prediction is, you know, he probably believes that it's less than a 50% chance that ESPN will extend the contract. Oh, I'm sorry. He believes it's less than a 50% chance that ESPN will not extend the ACC contract. That's why he's calling it a bold prediction. And not just a prediction. But. It's interesting because of all the bold predictions that Dennis Dodd could have of all the bold predictions Dennis Dodd could have made for the ACC, why did he pick this one? Why did he pick this one? And I will say this, and then we're going to talk about it at the back end of the monologue. I don't think it's because of clicks. He doesn't need the clicks. I don't believe that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One of the places that leaks the most is executives that work at these media companies. They talk. They talk when they shouldn't talk. So, did Dennis Dodd get a little bit of a wink and a nod from ESPN? Or somebody who believes they know that has information on ESPN and their future plans? We'll talk about it in the back end of the monologue. We'll get to it. The title of the show, Dennis Dodd's bold prediction, ACC, ESPN. ESPN will not extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. And what would that mean if that actually happened? What would that mean? Well, first of all, it'd be a big nuclear bomb blowing off. And I think things, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. John Till, thank you so much for your super chat. I do appreciate your generosity. You're not sick. It's just withdrawal from leaving paradise. Also, any truth to the rumor of UConn going to the Big 12? I was asked about that a month ago from somebody. I checked into it and I was told, no, there's nothing to that. Now, that was about a month ago. So I'm going to basically say I don't believe there's any truth to it. Now, have things changed over the last month? Maybe, and maybe I'll take the L on this. Oh, by the way, I do have to take an L on something. I'll get to it right away. I usually get to my L's at the beginning of the show. So I will do that right now. But John, I do not believe there is any rumors to that. I don't think there's any truth to it. But thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. I do have to take an L. Before we get to our monologue, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, with Dave Wetzel and the other guy podcast. Ross Dellinger basically said it's a handshake agreement. A handshake agreement between the Big Ten and the SEC with the ACC, the Big 12, and the G5. Especially the point about the G5. It's a handshake agreement that the G5 will have continued access to the playoffs until 2031. It's not written in a contract. So yeah, I have to take the L because I thought it was written in the contract. I think it was reported that way. Maybe I was mistaken. I thought that when those reports came that they were waiting for the G5 to approve it, the Big 12 to approve it, the ACC to approve this next, this 8 years out to 2031, this media contract with ESPN where they're going to cover the playoff games. I thought in that agreement to get everybody on board that there were certain protections that everyone was going to receive. But Ross Dellinger is saying it's a handshake agreement, that access will not be taken away from G5. Well, handshake agreement. We have been witness to handshake agreements, to gentlemen's agreements being destroyed by the powers that can destroy those handshake agreements. So, do I believe that the G5 is going to have their access stripped from them before the 2031 season, before the end of this new this playoff agreement, this media agreement with ESPN? No, I do not. But it's definitely not in a contract like I thought it was. If Ross Dellinger is accurate in his latest report that it's only a handshake agreement between the Power 2 and the G5s, well, I don't believe the G5 is going to walk away on their own. They're not going to, they're going to want to keep that one playoff spot. And then maybe have their own little 4-team tournament with the other G5 champions. That sounds like a great idea. We know that they're looking into it. But for me to keep saying that there's no way that the G5 axis can be stripped away from them. Well, I cannot continue to say that because I was incorrect. It sounds like it's a handshake agreement. It's not written in a contract. So, my bad. I apologize to the PATC community. I take an L. I still don't think it's going to be stripped away, but these handshake agreements, man, you know, it's we've already seen them. We've already seen a lot of backstabbing here in the last 5 years, right? So, is the G5 going to get backstabbed by Tony Petit and Greg Sankey? Probably not. But it's a way bigger chance of it happening than I thought. So, taking the L here early on August 20th. By the way, August 20th, 2024, 2 years ago, on this exact date, August 20th, 2022, the Los Angeles Times, front page, they had my ugly face on the front page of the Los Angeles Times as they talked about how we broke the USC story. Brady McCullough, thank you once again so much for doing that article. But that was 2 years ago. And that story went out in the Los Angeles Times. It went out on digital first. And because it had so many hits, that story about USC going to the Big Ten and the fat guy from Minnesota breaking it, that was supposed to be in the sports section. But because the digital section came out first and there were so many hits to it, they moved it to the front section, front page of the newspaper. And I remember I took the little general on a little vacation a couple weeks before the article came out. And she did not know that I was getting interviewed. I got interviewed 4 different times by Brady McCullough in the Los Angeles Times. And she didn't know I was being interviewed. I had not told her. I had not told the family. I don't even think I told my friends. I just kept my mouth shut. I was starting this YouTube channel. I started it on August 7th of 2022. And I knew that the article was coming out August 20th, 2022. So I took my wife to Lake City, Minnesota, and down to Wabasha, Minnesota, on the lakes of the Mississippi River. And I remember me and the little general were going to be taking a walk around the big lake there, Lake City. And I said, now, honey, this is what's going to happen. I had to explain to her what was going on and everything. And then I had to come home. And at that time, my father was alive and my mother, we had explained to them that a newspaper article was coming out on their son. It wasn't anything bad, just relax. And my father, who was just starting, that first phase of dementia, he kept asking over and over again, what's going on? What's going on? It was pretty funny. But anyways, that happened August 20th. So 2-year anniversary on that. But anyways, let's get to the, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to get to Dennis Dodd's bold prediction. Bold prediction. Dennis Dodd, ESPN will not extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. And if that is the case, what is that going to bring on? First of all, we talked about the QB1 job, Baylor. Daquan Finn was named QB1. Duke. Coach Diaz Malik Murphy has landed the starting spot for the Duke Blue Devils. Not a surprise, of course. One of the more interesting transfers in the offseason, because Malik Murphy is a huge wild card, a massive wild card. He was one of the top 10 quarterbacks in his high school class. The only reason he's not the starter at Texas is they got the number one quarterback in his class, Quinn Ewers, and they followed up having Arch Manning. Malik Murphy has boogles of talent. And now he's going to be the quarterback one of Duke. Very, very interesting what happens with the Duke Blue Devils' new head coach, Diaz. Let's get to this article. What does every SEC fan base going to be worrying about when they put their head on their pillow at night? What are they worrying about? Alabama Crimson Tide. Who replaces Dallas Turner? Who, by the way, the Vikings have drafted. He's looked really good. Will true freshmen get some serious snaps at corner and receiver? Who will start at right tackle? There's a ton of talent on Alabama. This is from CBS Sports. Cody Goodwin, Bama 247. We're going to quickly go through every fan base in the SEC and what they are worrying about this season, or about their program in general. There's a lot of talent on this roster, but the program, the fans expect to compete for conference titles and playoff spots. The first few weeks of the season will reveal a lot. Who's going to replace Dallas Turner? And then they've got some true freshmen at corner and receiver. Tough spots for true freshmen. Arkansas Razorbacks. They have lost some momentum following a disappointing 7-6 season in 2022, but then they lost a lot of momentum last year. 4-8 with several embarrassing home losses. Now Pittman, he's definitely on the hot seat. Head coach Pittman is definitely on the hot seat. Losing notable in-state recruits from Missouri, Oklahoma, LSU, Auburn, and Minnesota. The quarterback of the year, Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Arkansas, Drake Lindsey. He's going to be QB2 at Minnesota this year. Arkansas cannot easily overcome the misses. Auburn. What are the Auburn fans? What are you worrying about? Recruiting. It has been a sore subject over the past few years, especially with the talent deficiency Harsin inflicted on the program with his 2 signing classes. Free's first full class this year is making tremendous progress. After last year's group finished number 8 nationally, it's that quarterback position. On the field, the quarterback has been a limiting factor for Auburn for the better part of the 3 seasons, and now Hugh Freeze can fix that moving forward in 2024. I don't think they're going to have, I don't think Auburn has the quarterback they need for this year. Peyton Thorne. I've talked about that before, but going forward, I think things are going to change. And plus, they got the great true freshman wide receiver, Coleman, who's going to turn a lot of heads this year. Florida Gators, we know their fans are going to bed each and every night, very worried about the program. Napier and his staff have checked some critical boxes over the past 2 years, namely fixing the program's ailing culture and boosting its productivity on the high school recruiting trail by landing some of the nation's top players, including, we all know about him, DJ Lagway. But entering year 3, Napier is just 11-14, 6-10 in SEC play. A record that doesn't fly among the Gator fan base that craves a return to the university's glory days on the gridiron. And they have a very difficult schedule this year. Boy, Napier is going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to keep his job for another year. Florida Gators. Georgia, what do they got to be worried about? Absolutely nothing. Except, when is Kirby Smart hang it up? He could have already retired as a king. CBS Sports, Benjamin Woke, Dodds 247. The sport is only getting more hectic, more complicated. But that's about the only thing that the Georgia Bulldog fans have to worry about when they put their heads on their cold pillow at night. Is Kirby Smart going to just hang it up? Go to the NFL sometime soon? Probably not. Kentucky Wildcats, Josh Edwards, 247. What's their worry? Offensive stability. Brock Vandegrift, the starting quarterback, and how Bush Habden's offense would translate to the SEC are relative unknowns. Kentucky is on its 3rd offensive coordinator in as many years. Kentucky's got a lot of players, man. We talked about it. I've got them finishing higher than a lot of people do in the SEC. Maybe about 9, I think. Number 9, number 10. The only reason I don't have them going up higher is because of Brock Vandegrift. It is a great unknown. But they've got players on both sides of the field. They just need some offensive stability. I don't know if Vandegrift can give it to them. We're going to find out. LSU, what are they worried about? Defense, and more defense. After having an offense capable of beating anyone last year, and a defense that couldn't stop anybody, this fan base hopes that the defense can improve under new coordinator Blake Baker. There are misses in the transfer portal. So LSU will have to count on some serious internal development. I couldn't do it. That's why I've got LSU finishing out of the playoffs. I got them finishing out of the top 5 in the SEC. LSU fans are not happy with me. I don't blame them. But I just could not find enough defense that I felt good about for LSU. Also Missouri, by the way. Same reason. Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, who did a good job at Missouri, went to LSU. But man, they lost so many people. Missouri lost so many people on defense. There are questions about the Missouri team's defense. So I've got Missouri just falling out, just missing the playoffs. Missouri, Michigan, Miami, those 3 teams I got just missing the playoffs. Missouri's defense is the reason why. Mississippi State, what are they worried about? Defense. State fans expect to score, but can they stop anyone with a brand new defensive scheme? Probably not. Not this year. So LSU, Missouri State, Missouri, what are the fans worried about? Defense. They got offense. Missouri's got a Cody Cook, great quarterback. Luther Burden, great receiver. Those schools can score, but do they have enough defense? What about Oklahoma? Well, it's their offensive line. We've talked about it over and over again during the offseason. The biggest worry point for a Sooner fan when they put their head on their cold pillow at night is that O-line. Whether the O-line coach Bill Benenbaugh can work his magic with an almost completely rebuilt line this year after the Sooners lost all 5 regular starters. It's too much of a change. You're going to the SEC with a whole new offensive line. That's why I've got Oklahoma finishing about 8 in the SEC. Ole Miss, what do they got to worry about? Lane Kiffin taking another job. He's always one of the top guys on the quarterback, on the head coach hot boards throughout the country. Is he satisfied at Ole Miss? Ole Miss is not a blue blood football program, but it aspires to be in this new era. Therefore, many still believe that Ole Miss is just a stepping stone for coaches of the caliber of Lane Kiffin. But Ole Miss this year, man, Jackson Dart, they're two wide receivers. They are absolutely loaded. The Ole Miss Rebels. South Carolina, again, the offensive line. And it's been this way forever for the Gamecocks. If you're a Gamecock fan, you know it's the offensive line. It's the offensive line. It's the offensive line. Last year, Spencer Rattler ran for his life all season. When will the Gamecocks get an offensive line that can help them compete to finish in the top half of the SEC conference? Tennessee, it's that secondary. It's that secondary. They got a whole new secondary this year. They're not worried about their quarterback, even though this is his first year as a freshman first year starter, Nico. It's that secondary. All 5 new guys in the secondary. Can they stop anybody? Well, they're going to have to figure out a way to stop North Carolina State, the Wolfpack, in Charlotte in week 1, because Grayson McCall is coming. Justin Jolly is coming. Dave Concepcion is coming. Noah Rogers is coming. North Carolina State Wolfpack is coming. Can Tennessee stop them? The secondary is the question mark for Tennessee. Texas, now Chip Brown of Horns 247 talks about Texas recruiting as being what they're worried about in Burnt Orange Nation. I think they should worry about that running game. They've lost their 2 top running backs, C.J. Baxter and the true freshman, and I'm not a believer in Jadon Blue. I'm not a believer. If I had to redo my picks, I would not have Texas going to the SEC championship game to play Georgia. I would have Ole Miss. But I can't change it now. But their injuries in the backfield, I think, is going to stunt the growth of the Texas Longhorns this year. Texas A&M fans, what are you all worried about? What are you all worried about? Texas joining the SEC and being immediately amazing. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Well, I don't know what to say, Texas A&M fans. I can understand why you're worried about Texas coming on in and finishing at the top of the conference that you have not been able to finish the top at the top. But I think Texas A&M is going to have a pretty good year under first-year head coach Mike Elko. I'm a big believer in Connie Wegman, the quarterback. I'm a big believer in him, and he's going against a very good, excellent defense in Notre Dame the first week of the season. It's going to be a fascinating game to watch. Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. What is Vanderbilt worried about? At this point, the fans are probably most concerned whether Clark Lee is the right coach to lead the program. He's not truly on the hot seat. The fans want him to succeed. It's been a bumpy road. Prior headaches like facilities, NIL, and admissions process have all greatly improved at Vanderbilt. And, Clark Lee he brought in Jerry Kill to be an advisor to him. And it sounds like Jerry Kill's been making a lot of impressive changes at Vanderbilt. We'll see how that goes. I just think that was a great article. I love those type of articles, especially right before the season starts. Fascinating. One other, before we get to the Dennis Dodd bold prediction. Rock and Rant, thank you so very much for being a member for a 7th month early peak. Dear G5 handshake agreements totally work. Why would we lie to you? Sincerely, the ACC, PAC, Big 12, Big 10 Alliance. Yeah. Thank you, Rock and Rant. You are hereby knighted, cloak and dagger. Once again, thank you so much for your generosity and for your friendship, of course. Again, I had to take the L at the beginning of the show. I thought that was I thought that was in the contract for those media rights. But it's not. It's a handshake agreement. Yikes. 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 We'll talk about more of that later. Let's get to the Dennis Dodd story. The main story of today. Excuse me. Dennis Dodd. Bold predictions. In February, ESPN will exercise its option not to extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. Florida State, having played the long game, will have its out and be able to put itself on the market. Florida State will do so at a much reduced rate to get out of the grant of rights, since it will only have 3 years to run. Don't ask me where Florida State goes, but if it is as a free agent beginning in 2028, there will be Power 4 interest. Basically, the next round of major realignment begins less than a month after the 2025 championship game. Buckle up. Even though this is just a small paragraph here, there's a lot in here that I want to dissect. First of all, there's a lot here. There is a lot here. People are saying Power 4 interest. Me versus Echo Chambers says I think he meant P2. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Dennis Dodd, when he said Power 4 interest, I think he meant Power 4 interest. And I'll get to that. There is a lot here. There is a lot. Else I would not be doing the show early in the day when I'm battling this virus. I do sound a little bit better. I think I do. I think I sound a little bit better. I hope I sound a little bit better, because I know it's terrible. Thank you, John Grove. I appreciate it. Getting better every day. Now, we're going to dissect this. And, no, I don't need a tinfoil. Nobody needs a tinfoil hat on. But I really want to get into this. You guys know this is how I do it here at Peek Around the Corner. There is reason why this interests me so much. First of all, Dennis Dodd puts this as a bold prediction. Maybe at some point soon, Dennis Dodd will make this as a prediction. There's a difference between a prediction and a bold prediction. A bold prediction is you're predicting something that you believe or other people believe have a less than a 50-50 shot of happening, right? Else it wouldn't be bold, right? Okay. Fair enough. Maybe if we put a little truth serum, if we injected that into Dennis Dodd, he would probably say, yeah, there's a chance ESPN will exercise its option not to extend the ACC, but the chalk is that they will extend the ACC contract. So then your question is, well, Greg, then why are you even talking about this? Well, let me tell you the reasons why I'm talking about it. Dennis Dodd chose to put this as his bold prediction. And I don't believe Dennis Dodd would just throw this up there unless somebody has told him, now wait a second, it could happen that ESPN will exercise its option not to extend. Now, let me be very clear, and I've been clear about this. And I'm not saying this is what happened with Dennis Dodd. I have no idea. But as a rule, leakage coming out of media companies Well, it happens. It happens a lot. Greg, how do you know that? Well, because I do. It happens. They are looking for favors, for reporters, whatever. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. So, while presidents might clam up, commissioners clam up, their legal counsels clam up, some athletic directors clam up, some athletic directors leak, media companies, certain people at those media companies, they leak. So maybe somebody said to Dennis Dodd, whoa. There's a chance that ESPN will not extend the ACC contract beyond 27. And Dennis Dodd took that and said, well, I'm going to put that in my bold predictions. Okay, let's get to the next part. Part of his bold predictions. So if the ACC exercises its option not to extend, then Florida State will have its out. It has its out. Don't need a win in the courts because that gore tightens up all. It ends at 2027. Florida State will have its out and be able to put itself on the market, which it can't do now. Dennis Dodd says Florida State will do so at a much reduced rate to get out of the grant of rights since it will only have 3 years to run. Correct. If ESPN exercises this option not to extend that ACC contract, immediately, and I'm telling you immediately, first party talks will begin all over the place. And that, of course, includes Florida State. 3 years left. Well, it would be basically 2 years left. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't care how you count it. This is after this football season. If you want to go 25 and 26 or 25, 26, 27, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That is the legal counsels of the Big Ten, the legal counsels of the SEC, the legal counsels of the Big 12 are going to give the go-ahead to the commissioners to go ahead and have first-party talks with Florida State, with Clemson, with whoever they want. It's not, the legal counsels will give the go-ahead. They haven't given the SEC and the Big Ten the go-ahead now, but they would if ESPN exercises this option not to extend the ACC contract. Okay, we know all that. Now, here's the next part. And I need everybody to focus here. Peek around the corner. I haven't been on lately. I'm battling an illness. We haven't been on. We're kind of all out of shape. I need you sickos. I need you college football sickos. I need you to listen. This is Dennis Dodd's next part of this. And I believe he said it the way he wanted to say it. Don't ask me where Florida State goes. But if it is as a free agent beginning in 2028 or beginning in July 1st, 2027, that part I'm not even concerned about right now. It doesn't really matter. If as a free agent, there will be, you see how he has will in italics? You see how he's got the word will in italics? There will be power for interest. And I'll get to the power for in a second. Basically, the next round of major realignment begins less than a month after the 2025 championship game. Buckle up. And of course, he uses my buckle up phrase. But anyways, the championship game, I believe, is January 20th. If ESPN declines its option to extend the contract, the ACC contract, beyond 2027, then it's Katie bar the door. Everything's thrown open. Right after that championship game, there will be first-party talks. Well, within a couple weeks after the championship game, there will be first-party talks. Buckle up. Now, it says here, but if it is as a free agent, beginning in 2028 or 2027, don't matter. There will be power for interest. Okay, what does that mean? Power for interest. It means exactly what it says. Power for interest. Power for interest. Number one, the SEC. Number two, the Big Ten. The Big 12. We know that there's been third-party talks with the Big 12, with Clemson, with Florida State, with Louisville. We have reported that. And yes, an ACC, a reconfigured ACC, is also going to be something that's going to be considered. Power for interest. If the ACC gets knifed by the ESPN and says that they're not going to have their contract beyond 2027, there could be a magnificent seven with an eighth school. 8 schools reconforming its own conference, going with another media partner, possibly going with an Amazon or somebody else. Because remember, if this bold prediction happens, everybody's out in 2027 or 28. Everybody is out. RX, I'm laughing at you losers. This is a warning. I don't want those type of statements in my chat. You want to throw an elbow at a certain team, go ahead. But don't take shots at everybody in the PATC community. That's a warning. No more warnings are going to be given out. So, Ross Dellinger, when he was interviewed by John Kurtz, Ross Dellinger, when he was interviewed by John Kurtz, talking about the options that a Florida State would have, the number 2 option that he put out before, right after the Big Ten and the SEC, he grouped that as option 1. Option 2 was a different ACC conference, a new conference with not all the ACC teams in that is an option. It most definitely is. So that is why I believe Dennis Dodd, has power for interest. He doesn't say, now, he doesn't know where Florida State's going to go. He says, don't ask me where Florida State's going to go. There's too many unknowns, right? There's too many unknowns. I mean, what is North Carolina going to do? What is Notre Dame going to do? Hold on one second. So that is why I believe Dennis Dodd has power for interest. That's why he put it in that. That's how he phrased it. And I believe he did it intentionally, and it's accurate. It is, now Dennis Dodd puts this out here, right? Bold predictions. Ross Dellinger on his podcast with Wetzel and Pat Forty, that just came out. The podcast just came out. I will find it and I will provide a link in the description box after this live show. No, it wasn't Ross Dellinger. It was Pete Thamel. Who was just on with his podcast. And I will provide a link in the description box. Pete Thamel just said it, that he basically said, nothing happened this August 15th, but a year from now. And then he talked about North Carolina and Virginia, how everybody basically is going to want North Carolina. And then they talked about who's going to be the partner of North Carolina, and they talked about Virginia, and how his host talking about how North Carolina would probably want Virginia. But then Pete Thamel said, but we don't know. He has heard something legally about North Carolina State, which gets back to the Board of Governors. And Pete Thamel's basically saying the North Carolina State piece, don't know how that's going to play out. We just don't know. But once again, Pete Thamel is saying how the SEC and the Big Ten, they're going to have major interest in North Carolina. And what North Carolina does is going to have incredible impact. So, Pete Thamel just said this all again. So if you read Dennis Dodd's bold prediction, and then you listen to what Pete Thamel just said, they're all waiting on this ESPN decision whether to extend the ACC contract. if they decide not to extend, then of course the next question is, well, holy smokes, everybody's going to have first party talks with everybody. Correct. Does the ACC stay together? Not the ACC as we see it today. Pete Thamel said the same question again. So they all know that there's a possibility of the top 8 schools forming a different conference with a possible different media partner, with a bigger media package, with a shorter media deal, right? And then if that happens, what happens to the other ACC schools? We do not know. This thing could go in so many ways. So when Dennis Dodd says, where does Florida State go? Don't even ask me. Don't ask me where Florida State's going to go. But there'll be Power 4 interest. Big 10, SEC, Big 12, and whatever this fourth conference, whatever this new fourth conference, could it form? I mean, would Florida State would Florida State want to go back into business with 6 or with 5 of these ACC schools that voted to have these schools sue the conference, sue Florida State, Clemson? That all depends on what type of deals, what type of interest Florida State receives from an SEC, from a Big 10, from a Big 12, right? So anyways, I want to open up the phone lines. I want to get your comments. We talked about the SEC fan bases, what they're worrying about when they put their head on the pillow. There is one more story that I want to get to. Then we're going to open up the phone lines. You see the title of our show, the title of our title screen, the new era of college football's general manager has arrived. No question about that. Alabama general manager Courtney Morgan agreed to a market-setting deal after USC push. So Courtney Morgan has been the general manager of the school's football program. He has agreed to a new 3-year deal that will pay him $825,000 per year. A source briefed on the deal confirmed Monday. Courtney Morgan. Now, the general manager, USC made a push for him. And the title of the position they were going to give Courtney Morgan was President of Football Operations. So we are finally into the era of a general manager, a president of football operations, whatever title you want to give them. They're going to be the ones that are going to be making the final decisions on how much everybody on your football team is going to get paid. How much money are you going to use to keep your players? How many are you going to use for the next high school class? Where are you going to put your resources? Your massive resources at Alabama. And of course, all these other schools. A lot of these schools are going to be hiring a general manager of football of operations. We are going to be hearing the names. And then when your team makes a bad decision, when your team outspends everybody else in the portal for a left tackle, and that left tackle is a bust, we're going to be hearing about general managers being fired. We're going to be hearing about Mr. Monkey Says, Cameron B., John Grove, Lorenzo Haynes, Numbskull News. We're going to be hearing people saying, my general manager needs to be fired. The new era of general managers, it is now upon us. There's already battles going on for general managers. University of Southern California, the Trojans made a huge push to poach Courtney Morgan away from Alabama, and Alabama was able to keep him. So we need to talk about that as well. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Let me know what you're thinking about what Dennis Dodd said. I'll put it up on the screen once again. Talk about your favorite college football team. We're 4 days away from college football season starting officially. Florida State and Georgia Tech, we're going to be doing a watch party Saturday morning. So buckle up, brace for impact. Join us Saturday morning. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. I'm putting Dennis Dodd's bold prediction back up on the screen.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes.
I do appreciate it. Cameron B. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. A Big Ten program tried to poach Kansas's general manager. I did not know that. If you have a link to that story, send it to me, Cameron B. I do appreciate the heads up. I appreciate the super chat and your generosity once again to our program. BJ, go ahead. Thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
As always, Greg, thank you for allowing me to speak on your platform. And you sound a lot better from last time I heard you speak. So
I hope
the meds are working. The meds are working, I assume.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So I just wanted to comment on the main story, the Dennis Dodd story. And I want to preface it by saying, I'm not a big Dennis Dodd fan, right? But him as a person and what he writes is totally different. I'm just analyzing what I see, right?
Yep.
He works for CBS, right? The contract is owned, the ACC contract is owned by ESPN, right?
Yep.
Not saying Dennis Dodd is off or whatever, but I would expect to hear an ESPN writer with the scoop on a ACC ESPN deal or no deal. Not saying he's right or he's wrong, but just as a consumer, the source of that information is important. That's probably why he put bold instead of prediction, right? Because he doesn't have for sure the information. Yep. Now, I will say this. If I don't know how deeply folks are into college football and media and how it works, but CBS just lost a big their most important piece, media deal, with the SEC media deal, right? They lost it to ESPN, right? And they were going to up the deal significantly. I think they offered them up to $60 million a year or so. That's what reports were. But SEC took the bigger money from ESPN. It could be, if ESPN decides not to re-up this ACC deal, I think CBS would be the first person they speak to, because that same $60 million that they were going to offer the SEC, okay, give us $50 million a year, right? I think that it could be that could be a part of it, because I think as the ACC sits, CBS is based on the East Coast, the same footprint of the ACC schools. They have a wealth of vendors and sponsors that they normally work with. So I don't think it'll be a forced stretch to see them offer a boatload of money to the ACC schools if the ACC schools stick together as they are now. So that's one. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking CBS just wants that deal.
Yeah, I don't really have any. I mean,
because CBS replaced SEC network media deal with the Mountain West media deal.
First of all, Um, these so Dennis Dodd works for CBS, but these media companies, they leak. It doesn't matter that Dennis Dodd works for CBS. You know, these. I mean, I've gotten leaks, right? I mean, there's a reason why. There is a reason why Dennis Dodd, Heather Dinich, Pete Thamel, Brett McMurphy, Nicole Arba. Well, she wasn't actually all that accurate, but there's a reason why a lot of these reporters were accurate during the Pac-12 Big 12 saga, when the Pac-12 was not getting good deals. I was getting information from our Arizona State money purge. Dennis Dodd was basically telling everybody, look, Pac-12 is not getting any good offers. Andrew Marchand, John Oron, ESPN was leaking like a sieve. Fox was leaking like a sieve. I kept saying the chatter behind the curtain, it's overwhelming, the negativity. In fact, these reporters are pushing back. So I would not carry too much importance on what company a Dennis Dodd works for, just for one example. These media partners, they have relationships with these reporters, you know, long-time sources. They're going to leak no matter who Dennis Dodd is. And I'm not saying he got something or not. I'm just saying don't pay too much attention to what company a reporter works for in this regard.
I'll say this, Greg. You know, I'm a straight shooter. I'm not a yes man.
No.
I try to think things through. I'm going to disagree with you there. Not disagree with you. Add context. There's a difference between the ACC deal and the PAC deal. You know what the biggest difference is? The PAC was not in a contract with ESPN, whereas the ACC deal is wholly owned by ESPN, right? So there's a difference. And from a legal standpoint, leaking information out on a deal can have ramifications legally, right? So that's a huge difference between the Pac-12 situation and the ACC situation. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the ESPN will willingly leak data out on an ACC deal that they have to negotiate with in a couple of years. That is malfeasance. So that's just my take on that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just disagree with you on the. I want to add context with you between the two different situations.
Got it.
And I'm not saying Dennis Dodd is a bad reporter. I just think he offers commentary and op-eds more than reporting most of the time. When I read his articles, there's a lot of what he feels and what he thinks, and not what's reported. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest issue with Dennis Dodd. He's accurate a lot of the times. But when I read an article, I want to read what's reported and not how you feel. That's all.
Got it.
Now, and the last piece, you're about the CBS potentially kind of position themselves to kind of be first up if the ACC ESPN deal falls apart or ESPN decides not to re-up. I think that's a legitimate option for the ACC. Because from a TV executive perspective, I know they were making buku of bucks on that SEC deal, viewership and numbers and advertisers. And I think advertisers not happy to go from that 12 p.m. slot from $2 and $3 million views per show, per game, to maybe a couple 100,000 for the Mountain West. I think if you slide the ACC, and the Mountain West starts later, if you slide the ACC in that 12 o'clock CBS slot, I think it's beneficial for both parties because guess what? NBC just picked up a new TV deal, and NBC and ABC are competitors. ABC has a slot with ESPN, so both of their main competitors, NBC and ABC, have football at noon or 1 o'clock or so on that TV slot. CBS doesn't have that slot. So I can see CBS wanting the ACC to compete with its competitors. But that's all I have to say about that. I would like your opinion on it from the perspective that I gave you. But I think that's what I see.
I don't know what type of arrangement CBS and the Big Ten has in regards to CBS grabbing any more college football content, grabbing content from another conference. I don't know, if there's
ACC, not Big Ten, the ACC, Greg.
I know.
I was thinking.
I know, but what I'm saying is I don't know if CBS would have the ability to bid on an ACC contract. Not because I'm saying I don't know. I'm leading with I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Number one, if they are able to, go after the first game of the day type of slot, noon Eastern, with an ACC, I suppose that maybe that would work out. Maybe that would be something that they'd be interested in. I don't know if it would be at the number that those 8 schools or whatever would want. I'm thinking more in the line of, it could be a possibility. It's interesting to think about, but I was thinking more in the possibility of a major streaming partner being, maybe like a CBS and an Amazon, possibly. That
maybe I can see some kind of partnership, but I know there's a need for it because if I'm a executive for CBS and I'm making a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, I'm making a buku of bucks. I have content that people want, and I have advertisers who expect a certain number. To go from that to the SEC deal to the Mountain West deal is unacceptable. I'm surprised if he's not fired, right? Because that's a significant drop off, and that's a significant hit to your bottom line. So I think the advertisers who are paying for the football slots, they know what the rates are. Everybody know what they know what the rates are for primetime Power 4 football. So I think, without a doubt, there's no doubt in my mind, and if you can follow up with me or I follow up with you, in next year, but I guarantee you CBS will have a say-so on that ACC media deal if ESPN does not immediately re-up them. So, but thank you, Greg, so much for having me on again. It's a pleasure to have you have me talk on your platform.
You got it.
Stay blessed. God bless. Have a good one.
I appreciate the call, PJ. Appreciate it, man.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, thanks for calling, man. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, man, good to talk to you. Just
Yeah.
rolling in here and saw this. I was like, I got one question to ask.
Go ahead.
Is it really that bold? I'm not taking a shot at Dodd. I mean, just honestly, is it really out of left field, or is it really like? To me, the announcement sound.
I think from the perspective of college football fans, maybe it's not that bold, but from the chatter behind the curtain, where they all think ESPN will extend it, I can see why he says it is bold, because they're all saying the same thing. Yep. Go ahead.
Because to me, I mean, I know you've talked about the chat and how everyone says they're going to do it. To me, that's always kind of come across as like a business assumption. Like, oh, they'll go ahead and do it. It's a good deal. They're getting them at a low price, all of this stuff. And I get that. But to me, the reality is that they would be signing on for 9 years at that point, and that doesn't even start for another 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So you're talking about over a decade. And they're looking at the situation there with Florida State and Clemson, saying if they actually get out, this goes from what some people would say is a good deal to an extremely bad deal. Just as a business arrangement, I don't see how they could possibly opt in with the same deal while Florida State and Clemson are up in the air. And we've heard some rumors that there was an actual settlement offered and it was turned down. It's probably high, probably very high. And this is probably why, because there is a ticking clock. And that just has to be figured out by. Otherwise, it's just not a good deal for ESPN to take because of the risk of the future. You know, looking at what it's been in the past and everything there, I get why people would say it's a good deal. That's not really what's at play here, though. What's at play is the future, and the future is very uncertain. So, to me, Dodd saying this, I mean, if it's just his prediction, it's a pretty good one. I don't know if he just came up to himself, he saw someone else write it up or whatever, that's fine. And I get that it kind of flies in the face of other institutionals, and that's something. But to me, unless something gets figured out with Florida State and Clemson, I just don't see how ESPN can take that. And to reiterate, that does not mean that they don't have a deal with the ACC going past that point. I think it's a little much for folks to say there'll be nothing there. It just means they're not going to opt in with the current one and they're going to renegotiate. I might be wrong here, but I think we've even heard Commissioner Phillips, say that they're talking over details and doing some negotiations with ESPN. Do you remember that at all?
Yep. Yeah, he has. He said it. Yep.
Yeah, and that in my opinion negates the idea of the opt-in. Like if they opt in, they opt in. It's the same thing. It continues forward. That's all. If there's any type of negotiation at all, it's because there's an opt-out. Now, they can do that quietly. They can be good business partners and just quietly do that and say, no, we need to figure out something else before this time comes. Otherwise, it becomes public at that point. So, that's the ticking time clock, is them doing the negotiation because they're not opting in. And Florida State and Clemson seem pretty ripe to just keep these lawsuits going because that's the pressure. That's the pressure that says this could be finalized well before 2036. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that he says this and he brings this out now so it's like a more acceptable public talking point. But to me, the analysis has been ever since at least when Clemson came in. When they came in as well, and you have your top two value members of that conference, both in the situation, I think that's, to me, it's okay, bold from his position, but to me, this is the sound analysis. So I don't know if you still don't agree with that, but to me, that's what I think is going on.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. All I can say is the chatter behind the curtain believes that they're gonna, that ESPN will extend the ACC contract beyond 2027. That's what the chatter. That's what they believe. Maybe, maybe this is a Dennis Dodd. I'm just speculating. Maybe this is somebody leaked something to him. Someone told him, look, ESPN may choose not to extend it. So this is his way of saying, whoa, this is my bold prediction, because in his world, in his bubble, he's been told, because I know that's the chatter. I mean, I know that's the consensus. They all believe that. And maybe they all been told that, and maybe things have changed, or maybe they were all lied to, or whatever. I'm just saying.
Both could be right.
I think this is, but again, I'm just speculating here. I don't know why he chose right now to have it in his. He could have had a lot of different things in his bold predictions for ACC, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. He could have picked a team. I saw his bold predictions for Big Ten. He's doing this for every conference. So his bold predictions for ACC is this. So to me, that means somebody told him something. And he said, and he gave it enough validity that he's like, okay, maybe this is gonna happen. And then the other part was, he says, Power 4 interest. And we've heard Ross Dellinger speculate on it. Pete Thamel just quickly mentioned it again on his podcast. Just quickly, just in and out, like, what does North Carolina do? Would the ACC stay together? Some part of that stay together? Like, I think they're being told, the chatter behind the curtain, I think they're being told, well, you know what? If ESPN walked away, one of the options that the top 8 brands of the ACC, what they could do is create a new conference with a possible new media partners. And that is an option as well. At least, have an option to leverage against the SEC and the Big Ten with their possible offers. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I kind of came to a point on my own where my thoughts and understanding towards what could actually be the supposed Super League isn't something to do with the Big Ten or the SEC. Because the numbers that are stated out there are just, they're just numbers. They don't mean anything. There's no backing to them. It's just, you could possibly make this much if we do this. It's just to get someone to the table, and they're not going to the table. So to me, it feels like a best of the rest type of a situation. Like, do everything you possibly can, maybe short of selling your soul, maybe not, to try to get to as much as you can so you can remain competitive. I mean, we just saw the guy at Alabama making damn near $1 million being competed for between Alabama and USC because the arms race. So that's what I would see as the Super League, and that's maybe why we saw West Virginia and Syracuse presidents kind of running at the front of that. It's like a conglomeration of all the rest. So that's possible. It's entirely possible. But I would say to the situation, both sides could be right. Like, the people that you're hearing or we're talking in the back saying they're going to continue on, that's still possible, even if ESPN opts out. Like I said, I think that they're probably being good business partners and just quietly doing it. So there's probably not a whole lot coming out about it.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to see it is if it's just by analysis, right? Like, if you're waiting for a leak to come out from ESPN and the ACC office about it, I think the best we've gotten from that are some of Phillips' things that he said, which maybe he didn't realize he was letting the cat out of the bag when he said that they were having negotiations and talks, because that basically means the opt-in is not being taken and a new negotiation has to happen. So to that, I would love to know, who now is on the ACC executive committee? Who is, getting the first look at that? What schools? Because I know we did that for 22, but I haven't seen a listing for right now. Could do it real quickly, but I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it's it's coming out like there's what you brought out. If we're seeing if that's happening, and if this is true, I mean the pieces are starting to become visible for people, kind of see where this is going. And to me, some of this could be surmised in the past, but it's always good to have someone who's there and in contact, kind of affirming that, this is looking to be the case. So that's all I really got on that. That's quite interesting, because I know we've talked about that quite a bit in the past, so it's interesting to see it coming out now.
Yeah. We've gotten a lot of reports. Today seems to be the day that these head coaches, a lot of these head coaches are choosing to name their starting quarterback. We've gotten Baylor announced that it's Daquan Finn. He's going to be the starting quarterback, the transfer from Toledo. We got a report Duke has announced that Malik Murphy, the transfer from Texas, he's going to be the starting quarterback for week 1. And now we've just gotten an announcement from Shane Beamer, South Carolina. They've named Lenore Sellers as South Carolina's starting quarterback. I just hope that offensive line is better than they were last year for the Gamecocks. Lenore Sellers is going to be running for his life. But has there been any word on Iowa? Have they made any announcements today on who they're going to be? Who's going to be their quarterback one for week 1?
I still think it's going to be Cade. I have not seen an actual, but they've pretty much said it's Cade's job to lose. The thing is, there was enough there for he might have possibly lost it. But if the first game was a big game, like if they had signed a game against Big Power, we might see it swap. But since it's against Illinois State, I think they'll probably just throw Cade out there, see how he does. If it's bad, then they throw in Sullivan. I think that's probably what will happen.
Yeah. Jalen Daniels was announced today. I forgot to mention that. He's going to be quarterback 1 for Kansas. And that tells us at least that Jalen Daniels has made it through August camp and he's not hurt, right? I'm worried about his back. He had so many back spasms last year. Jalen Daniels, he's quarterback 1. Bearcat Steve says Sorsby was announced Cincinnati's QB1 this morning. So we're getting a lot of announcements this morning. I would guess that you're probably correct about Cade McNamara. He'll probably end up being QB1 for week 1.
Yeah. But how long he lasts, no guarantees on that. As far as Kansas and Jalen goes, man, I hope he stays healthy. He's very talented. He has some health issues, and I don't know what they have in terms of a backup this year. But I don't know if they have that same life wrap that they had last year.
Now, Jason Bean went someplace else. I don't know where he went. He's not with Kansas anymore.
Yeah, that's a shame because, I mean, that saved him, and that's kind of why I'm happy to see Iowa went and got themselves a decent backup because I think in these days, especially with so many of these transfer guys, you just don't really know what you're getting. You don't really know what kind of health issues, and so I don't know. We'll see, man. That's what I think, though. I think it's going to be we probably won't know for sure until they actually walk out onto the field.
Yeah, got it. All right, man. Appreciate the phone call, sir.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have yourself a good day.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Beautiful. Immaculate. Jason Bean is on the Colts now. John Grove, me versus Echo Chamber. Bean is on an NFL roster. Bean has used up his eligibility. Kyle Visser. Appreciate that information, guys. I had no idea that Bean was in the NFL.
Call from
CFB Plus.
CFB Plus is on the line. The floor is yours. Can you hold one moment, please?
Absolutely.
I just want to say to everybody, thank you for joining us today, August 20th, Tuesday, 4 days away from the start of the football season. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our channel, smash the like button if you like our content, and then share the video with your family and friends. Make sure you have your notifications turned on because we can come on live at any time. Listen, guys, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all the other days in the week. But Thursday, we're going to be on all the time. I mean, we're going to be doing watch parties. We're going to be analyzing. We're going to have our show late Saturday nights for people to call in and cry about their team. We're going to be going through the box scores. We're going to be talking college football all the time. So you got to have your notifications turned on because I do a horrible job of advertising this show. You got to keep your head on a swivel. CFB Plus, I appreciate your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, I guess my thought process right now, and thanks for having me on the show, is it doesn't make I mean, this is also to my uninformed or no insider opinion, but it doesn't make sense for ESPN not to opt in to the ACC deal, or at least not extend it for another 10 years. Because if they don't, then they will need inventory.
Yep.
And if they need inventory, what's going to happen is they're going to be paying for a good bit of the ACC just a different way. They'll either be in the SEC or they'll either be in the Big 12. And I guess some may go to the Big 10, or Fox covers a portion of it in the Big 12, but you're probably not going to be saving a significant amount of money. That's just kind of my guess, is that so nothing's really changing. And if anything, they may be spending more money because they'd have to pay for potentially 2 or more schools joining the SEC, which have a much, much higher deal than the ACC. But even if ESPN wasn't too interested in broadcasting a whole bunch of ACC games, I still think it makes sense for them to re-up the contract, because then they could just turn around and sell those media rights to another broadcasting partner, like they did with the CW for the ACC Tier 3 rights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that may be a little bit tinfoil hat-ish, but it just, to me, it doesn't make sense not for ESPN to do it, because worst case scenario, ESPN just sells it to TNT, or maybe they sell it to CW, or sell a higher portion of the media rights deal to another broadcast partner, so they don't have to broadcast all the ESPN games or the ACC games. They get paid from another media partner, but they still retain some of those rights. And they own the rights just flat out, because they're just selling them or leasing them or whatever, however that works. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah, my biggest question about ACC, if Dennis Dodd's bold prediction happens, Dennis Dodd, if he's just joining us, his bold prediction for the ACC is ESPN will not extend the ACC's contract beyond 2027. If that should happen, my biggest question is not so much, okay, ESPN, the inventory, they might backfill, they might be able to grab a little bit more Big 12 content, although, the Big 12 might expand, so it's just the money is just changing hands from the ACC to Big 12, and they're not saving any money, or there might be a couple teams that go to the SEC, so they're going to have to pay more in Tier 1, whatever. None of all that is kind of back and forth, pull and push type of. But my biggest question would be, what happens to the ACC network? Because the SEC spent a lot of money on that. The ACC schools spent a lot of money on that. But from the ESPN perspective, they put a lot of money towards that. They've advertised it. They've got it in a lot of markets. ESPN's actually making money on it. The ACC schools are actually making money on it. It has not failed. It has not been a dud. Maybe it shrinks in the next 5 years because, subscriptions are falling everywhere for everybody on cable, including the Big Ten network, including the SEC network. Although that might get a bump now because of their additions to the conference. But but they're making it up on ad money. But what happens to the ACC network is my biggest sticking point with, are they just gonna just shut that down, or what happens to that? So that's the biggest question mark I have. But go ahead, sir.
In regards to that, now I know it has been floated numerous times, and it doesn't make a whole lot, or it hasn't made a whole lot of sense in the past. But depending on how things fall, do you think that ESPN could just roll over the ACC network into the Big 12 network if the Big 12 were to grab a good portion of the conference and the ACC just really isn't the same conference anymore?
Well, I mean, roll into it like
they just essentially take the network and rebrand it as
but
Big
I mean, those
12.
Big 12 schools would have to work on each of these ACC schools needed a couple years to build out their. They all needed to invest millions of dollars into their own athletic complex to make the ACC network work. The Big 12 schools would have to do that now. I mean, Washington has just put millions of dollars into so the Big 10 network would work up there. So it's not just like you're not like just slapping on a sticker from a truck. So I don't know. I mean, ESPN wasn't really ever interested in a Big 12 network. The markets weren't big enough in the Big 12. But now that it's basically subscription, I don't know. Maybe. I don't have an answer.
And that was just a thought. I'm not saying that I think that, or it's just a point of curiosity. My second question is more so in regards to the rebranded ACC, or the, I guess, Magnificent Seven, if that were to happen. I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest roadblocks to that is probably Louisville, because you're going to need to have at least 8 schools join the league, and they're going to have to be valuable enough, because otherwise then it's the same ACC minus like 4 schools, which doesn't really change much in my opinion. But if you're Louisville and you're looking at joining a small ACC with 8 teams going on Amazon versus, and they're not really super close and buddy to a lot of the legacy schools. And if they have an opportunity to look at the Big 12 and join, and I mean, that's arguably the best basketball conference in the country right now, and they value basketball. They're much more of a fit geographically and culturally, because now Cincinnati and West Virginia is there. I could see Louisville kind of choosing the Big 12 over the revamped ACC, and at that point, who would you add to replace them? Syracuse, Pitt, and then at what point does the money just not work out for that new look ACC and schools start looking elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought on that. I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
No. Good speculation, though, sir. I do appreciate it. Great call, man. Call again.
All right. Thank you. You get feeling better.
You bet. Appreciate it. We do have breaking news on a travel issue when it comes to week 0. We already have travel issues. Replica early peak cloak and dagger member for 5 months. ESPN is supposed to be going direct to consumer next year. There will be no need for an ACC network once they go to DTC, especially if Florida State and Clemson are leaving. But the cable aspect is still going to be there. It's not going to be just direct to consumer. At least that's what I believe. Replica, thank you so much. Appreciate it. You are hereby knighted early peak cloak and dagger for the 5th month. Holy smokes. We do have, thank you, Replica, appreciate it. We do have some breaking news. Eric Ruby, CBS, reminding BJ that CBS Big Ten deal has the SEC 3:30 Eastern time slot for the Big Ten. I think what BJ was talking about was that noon Eastern time slot that CBS could put ACC on. I believe that's what BJ was talking about. Thank you, Eric Ruby, for your super chat, Mr. UCF. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for your generosity. We do have some breaking news. Unfortunately, Delaware State, who's playing Hawaii, confirmed that the Delaware State Hornets missed today's 10.5-hour flight to Honolulu because of a bus snafu to JFK Airport. We're working on a plan. Delaware State, Hawaii opens the season Saturday. So Delaware State has not gotten on the airplane. It is Tuesday. The 10.5-hour flight to Honolulu has not begun. So we have week 0 travel issues popping up already. College football, it's going to be a dramatic season. Woo! They can't take the Amtrak all the way there. Take a shorter flight and transfer. Yeah, they're going to figure something out. But man, oh man, holy smokes. Week 0 and we're already having issues. Delaware State versus Hawaii, the Rain Bowl Warriors.
Call from.
I'm sorry, did not get the name.
JD.
Oh, JD, thanks for calling, man. Appreciate it.
How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Sitting here waiting in line to get my food, and they're taking a long time. So I figured I better call in now. I might miss my opportunity to call.
Beautiful.
But anyway, looking at the Dennis Dodd article.
Okay, I'll put it up on the board here. Hold on. Go ahead.
And listening to you talk about the chatter behind the curtain.
Yes.
When dealing with the SEC and the Big Ten, granted, they don't tell everyone their secrets, but the information is somewhat reliable. Sorry. Is somewhat reliable, though they don't tell everyone their secrets. The ACC, I don't think it's an unreasonable take that they are less than truthful. The details leading into where we are now. First, they denied the 2027 opt-in. They claimed, no, it was a look-in. First, they claimed it didn't exist. Then they claimed it was a look-in. Then they claimed the contract continues on. They make all of these claims what did Dellinger in his last article, or not of his last articles, but an article last week or the week before, acknowledged that 2027, basically the deal ends. It doesn't, I mean, to opt in, you would have to opt in to extend the deal. So technically, the contract ends in 2027. So I'm just, a lot of the, I guess, discrepancies or maybe some of the media disagreements or uncertainty is just because the ACC is just not truthful. There's a lot of propaganda floating through the system when it comes to them. And it's par for the course, because you look at the complaints by their members, the complaints leading up to the lawsuits, that they can't even have access to the contracts. I mean, am I on track here? I mean, is that a valid take in your opinion?
Yeah, it's valid. I would say that reporters, when they are talking about this situation, they're not just going to hear it from the ACC side. They're going to poke and prod on the ESPN side and on the Florida State side as well. So I don't think these reporters are just running with information that they receive from the ACC. You know what I'm saying? So I'm speculating. I'm speculating that maybe Dennis Dodd received some information directly or indirectly, someone that he believes was valid in regards to some information coming out of ESPN saying that there's a chance they may not extend the contract. And that's why Dennis Dodd posted it as a bold prediction. But go ahead, sir.
No, I a lot of it is in other words, a lot of the things that reporters will post contradict what FSU has said in their lawsuits. But as time goes by, more of the things that were in the claims of the suits are shaking out. They're not just, allegations. There's some validity to them. And again, I'm just noticing a trend. Yeah, there's some things that ESPN and the ACC and FSU, they're all in agreement on, but there's just so much discrepancy. And as time shakes out, it's more and more apparent to me, as trust me, mentally I'm keeping up with all these little details. I'm still back on the whole last summer, everything was ironclad, and or the year or 18 months ago, everything was ironclad, and we now know none of it was ever ironclad. I'm not just harping on the ACC because I'm an FSU fan. They're just not necessarily a good partner, and there's a lot of deception, a lot of threats, a lot of, and again, I keep using the word propaganda. ESPN's not going to sell out their business partner. I was listening to your last caller, and he was talking about why he doesn't understand why the ACC wouldn't extend this deal. I can tell you why. After you get the top four brands, everyone else doesn't even average 1 million viewers per game. A lot of them are significantly under 1 million viewers per game. So between your media share and your ACC network payout, you're going to pay nearly $50 million to Cal, Stanford, and SMU when all of those combined, I'm not even sure, equal 1 million viewers a game. And I'm just picking on them because they were some of the bottom ones on the list. You have Wake Forest, you have all these other ones. And there's also, you take FSU, Clemson, and even take, North Carolina and begrudgingly, I'll even say Miami. I hate to say it, but you put them in a Power 2 conference, their numbers jump. Is it worth to pay them extra? Yes, because they're going to be even more valuable. It's like taking a beautiful house and if it was possible, move that house into a more elite neighborhood. That value of that house skyrockets. Well, it's the same. It's the same concept. You take elite brands or big brands, move them into a better conference, and already value brands become even that much more valuable. But at the same time, you get rid of the dead weight. And will ESPN want to still keep some of these ACC teams under their umbrella? Will they still want to have a deal with the ACC? Yes. But if you just look at the viewership and you look at the payouts and you look at what average teams throughout the country that have similar viewership numbers, they would be significantly overpaying these ACC teams. Plus, again, here comes Raycom again. There's no scenario moving forward where I could see where ESPN wants to be in an ACC contract where they don't own the Tier 3 rights or they don't have greater control over the Tier 3 rights. I mean, it's worth a lot more to them than $50 million a year. And I don't know how many broadcasts, what is that, 11, 12 broadcasts a year it's going to be on CW, plus basketball games, plus other content. Is that worth more than $50 million to ESPN? I would assume so. It'd be worth more than that to the ACC. Well, just that one change in itself is more than a 5% change. We keep going into all these details why the existing deal won't stay the same, and I think it's just right there in front of our face. But I don't know. I'm just taking them back. The more as we move forward, how unreliable the ACC is. It just, and I've had this call with you before, but and I keep saying it's just mind-numbing to me that I can believe some of the rumors coming out about the SEC. They're very straightforward. Again, they don't tell you everything. I can believe those about the Big Ten. I can believe a lot of them about the Big 12. I don't believe much of anything about the ACC because there's always shades of gray that are slanted in one direction with a percentage of misdirection. And I'm not blaming that on the media. I'm blaming that on the conference. I'm blaming that on the leadership. And I just don't know how I don't know how the brands could exist under that existing umbrella. And you talked about, and I came in late, I'm sorry, that something about a rebranded ACC or something. I mean, I'm not totally opposed to that, but it can't be obviously with the existing leadership. I mean, that whole umbrella's got to be gone. I mean, it is a full breakaway, whole new government. Just, you got to leave that behind. And because I don't think you can trust them. I just don't believe you can. I was actually looking at some of the, I forgot where it was posted a while back, the operating expenses for the Big 12 versus the operating expenses for the ACC. I thought it suggested the operating expenses for the ACC was 4 times that of the Big 12. 4 times. And there's just too much there. There's too much there. Swofford's still getting over $3 million a year as retirement payments. I mean, anyway, I'm rambling, sir, but there were just some things on my mind. And like I said, I trust you and I trust your sources. And I've been very critical of the media in some aspects. and there's some of them I'm still very critical of. But what I'm starting to get a handle on is it's not necessarily what they're hearing is that the people giving them the information is not as reliable. And I don't think it's prevalent in other conferences. I'm zeroing in on the ACC. And who knows? If I'm proven wrong, so be it. But as of right now, things that you and I talked about over a year ago that people would have thought I'm crazy, got a pretty good track record at this point. I don't get it all right. I definitely didn't get an announcement for 8:15. But when you look at the ACC through a lens of extreme skepticism, that's the best place to start. But anyway, all right, I'm rambling, sir, and I appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Hope you get to feeling better.
Yep. Beautiful call by JD, PATCs, and Mr. Seminole. A few things I wanted to, first of all, Roger Dodger. Nobody wanted Florida State just a month ago. It's not that nobody wants Florida State. I don't think it's not that. It's they're not the number one targets for the SEC of the Big Ten. Pete Thamel basically said it again yesterday. Again, they're all being told the same thing. It's how much. First of all, there can't be any first party talks now. And if Florida State is able to become a free agent, if Florida State is able to become a free agent, if for example, let's just pretend that that ACC cannot, ESPN decides not to extend the contract for beyond 2027, Florida State's going to have first party talks with everybody. But the number one target for the SEC is North Carolina and the connected tissues of North Carolina. The number one target for the Big Ten is Notre Dame and then North Carolina and whatever the connected tissues to North Carolina. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just telling you, I'm not taking a shot at Florida State Clemson. They're incredible brands. They're going to have interest. But where they decide, where they end up is unknowable right now. There's a lot of different variables out there. I want to bring up something here. Viewership. People are equating viewership to value. And I don't blame anybody for doing this, okay? I get it. This school averages this many views when they play football. This school averages this many views when it plays football. But it's probably one of the most important, if not the most important data points, but it's way more complicated than that. When people say Clemson and Florida State has such and such percentage of the viewership, therefore they're such and such percentage of the total value of the conference, then it doesn't make sense. If you say the word market, I'm out. Well, then I'm gonna have to say bye. Hopefully you come back, the chat. Because it's still having a certain percentage of the market or viewership in Birmingham is different than a certain percentage of the market of somewhere else. 2 million viewers don't equal 2 million viewers, don't equal 2 million. They don't all have the same value. We would all like to have 4 million views on a football game versus 800,000. No question about it. But people gotta, they don't have to do anything if they don't want to, but it isn't as easy as 2.5 million is better than 2 million. It isn't. It's more than just viewership numbers, though. It's more than viewership numbers. I don't know. No, it doesn't. Does viewership equal media value? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It has a lot to do with it. A lot to do with it. But it's not viewership equals media value. It doesn't work that way. It's way more complicated than that. The market, the demographics, your national advertisers. Okay, let me give you an example. The NBA is going to expand at some point, right? And they're looking at expanding back into Seattle Supersonics. Or they might expand in Las Vegas. Or they might expand in Monterrey, Mexico. But they're not necessarily going, we're going to get certain viewership here, certain viewership. Of course they're thinking about that. But the NBA is looking at, what do our advertisers want? What market do they want? And the advertisers are looking more than just viewership. There are valuable markets out there, more valuable markets out there versus others. If Stanford, if California, if their viewership was, their viewership doesn't have to match the viewership of other parts of this country for their media value to equal other parts of this country, most parts of this country. But their viewership doesn't even get to that level. But their viewership number doesn't have to average many other parts. Because their demographics, that market buys products and services, the disposable income, the demographics, that stuff matters big time. I've often talked about blend is important. Markets that are intense when it comes to watching football and college sports, along with markets that spend money on the products and services, spend money. It's important. So viewership is incredibly important. It is. And nobody should disavow the big brands that bring the eyeballs. No question about it. But what type of markets, what type of demographics, what type of viewership are you bringing on board matters a lot. And that never, ever gets talked about when it comes to on Twitter, on message boards. We don't have the formulas. We don't know. I get it. But nobody talks about it. But that's what they talk about a lot behind the curtain. That's what these... You know, I've talked about how... I don't know. There's so many examples of this. There's so many examples of this. The Rutgers, Maryland, those editions for the Big Ten, they don't have great viewership. When a Rutgers football game is on, but that whatever viewership they get is pretty valuable to the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants North Carolina. The Big Ten wants Virginia. So does the SEC. They want those markets. Those students, those markets, the money that's in those markets. And Florida State and Clemson are big brands that bring a lot of viewership. That's the value that they bring. Their fan bases spend a lot of money. Look at what Florida State fan base is doing in Dublin, Ireland. They're spending a lot of money. You know, UCLA, if you read articles, their ticket sales, and they're noticing big activities. Way more out-of-state football tickets are being bought for the UCLA Bruin football games now that they moved to the Big Ten. Some of those football programs that are buying a lot of tickets for UCLA football, some of those football programs are in smaller markets but huge fan bases. Some of those football tickets are bought in big markets but smaller football fan bases. Like, for example, in Minnesota. A lot of Gophers are buying a lot of UCLA football tickets. And Gophers' viewership numbers aren't as big as the other big Big Ten schools. And some of those programs are in the smaller markets like Iowa and Nebraska, but they've got huge fan bases. And they're buying a lot of tickets for West Coast games. But the national advertisers are not just looking at viewership numbers. It's incredibly important, but it's more than that. And then you talk about the diversity of the markets. The Big 12, they wanted to expand to give more value to their media partners by expanding the conference, becoming a national conference. The Big Ten has done the same thing. The ACC went out and got Stanford in California. There's just so much more to it. So I just wanted to touch on that. And of course, Dennis Dodd, this is his bold prediction, right? This is his bold prediction. So Dennis Dodd, to me, overall, probably, I'm speculating here, probably still believes over 50% he probably still considers ESPN will exercise the option, right? But this is something that, in my, again, speculation on my part. To me, it signals that Dennis was set. Somebody told Dennis something. And Dennis Dodd says, you know what? I'm going to make the bold prediction. Now, if we go on here, and if we have other national reporters making bold predictions, or just making a prediction saying this could happen, ESPN, keep your eye on John Oron. Keep your eye on Andrew Mashan. Keep your eye on what they're reporting. Could we be seeing the start of a significant flip in what the people behind the curtain are saying? It happens. It happens. It happens. So, anyways, we're gonna close it up here. We've been on the air for almost 2.5 hours, and I need to rest this voice. We need to go into tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're gonna be doing a watch party Saturday. I hope everybody joins us. Florida State, Georgia Tech, Dublin, Ireland. We're gonna have the scoreboard right here. I'm gonna be watching it in our studio. You're going to be watching it at home or at a bar, wherever you're going to go. We're going to be putting in comments in real time. We're going to be watching the game, and we're going to see how our predictions against the spread goes. PATC community has Georgia Tech. No, I'm sorry. The PATC community has Florida State -13. I have over 56. Greg the Gold is going to start out 1-0, as Florida State and Georgia Tech are going to go well over 56. Well over 56. Tough Tony had a question about Mark Coyle. And I can't, something about 90% of it going to football. The 22 million, 90%. I don't know if it's going to be 90%, Mark, Tony. We'll find out. Again, there's so many variables when it comes to that. Mark Coyle did say in an interview that they're thinking about hiring a general manager. I don't even know if they made a final decision on that, number one. Number two, Minnesota might be one of those universities that for now splits that $22 million in half when it comes to women and men's, when it comes to Title IX. So that's another, we don't know the decision on that. So if it isn't split, I do not see Minnesota spending 90% on football. Maybe they should. Maybe everybody else around them will. Maybe Minnesota will be making a big mistake if they don't. But I have a hard time believing Minnesota's going to do that. Because they're going to be spending money on that women's and men's hockey program. So we shall see. We shall see. Anyways, we're going to lock it up. I want to thank everybody for their donations, the comments in the comments section, and for the great phone calls. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, please, everybody, please take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.